Of course, when building React apps, you're not limited to this one app component. Instead, you can, and typically will, build and use your own components, dozens and hundreds of your own components. For example, in this basic demo app here, we could put this header-related code into a new custom component to make this app component a bit leaner, and of course also to simply learn how to create custom components. Now, to build such a first custom component, we can stay in this app.jsx file for now, though later we'll actually put different components into different files. But to get started, let's add a new component by adding a new JavaScript function, because as you learned, React components are just JavaScript functions. So we can add this new function here above the app function, for example. And since it's just a normal JavaScript function, we can of course create that function with the function keyword. And then give it any name of your choice. Just make sure that it starts with an uppercase character. For example, we could pick header as a name, because my goal here is to take this header markup and put it into a separate component. As a next, and in this case also already final step, we should then return a value inside of this newly created header function. And the returned value should be the content that should be displayed on the screen by this component. So in this case, this header markup here, this HTML code. You can cut this from the app component and paste it here into the header component. Now, when returning a multi-line JSX code snippet, as I have it here, you must wrap it with parentheses to, in the end, tell JavaScript that all this code here belongs together. Though, thankfully, when using VS Code, you typically don't have to do that manually, because if you simply press the Format Document shortcut, these parentheses should be added automatically for you. On Code Sandbox, this can also be done by pressing the shortcut or executing the Format Document command, or simply if you save the file there. And with that, we're done. This is our first custom component. Though at this point, we have defined it, but we're not using it yet. Now, normally in JavaScript, you would use a function by executing it, like this. But that's not how you use a React component. Instead, it will be React, the library, that will under the hood execute these functions so that it understands what it should show on the screen. And therefore, we're not going to execute this function like this. Instead, the great thing about React and this JSX thing, this HTML in JavaScript code here, is that you can use your component functions like regular HTML elements inside your JSX code. So if you want to output the content of this header component as part of your app, you can go to that app component and use this header component function, which we defined before, like an HTML element inside of the apps component JSX code. For example, here. Just make sure you get the naming right and you write header with an uppercase H, because that is how our component function was named. You can then either write it like this with an opening and a closing tag, or you can also take a shortcut and write a self-closing tag like this. Now, what's important to know and keep in mind about this self-closing syntax, though, is that if you're using this syntax, you always must have this / here at the end. For example, also when using this image tag, this built-in image element, there you also must have this /. Writing it like this would not be allowed, but thankfully, as you can see, you would also get an error if you would try to write it like this. So you always need that /, also for your own custom components. But with that, if you save the app.js file and you reload your preview window, you should see the header again, this image, title, and subtitle. Which of course isn't an impressive change necessarily, because that's the content we saw before as well, but now we're seeing that result with our first custom component being used. And since, as mentioned before, you're going to work a lot with components in React, this of course is a crucial first step, because now you know how you can create your own components, and as you see, it's really not that difficult. Of course, we're going to add more features and learn about more related concepts, but in a nutshell, this is how you do build React components as a React developer.